There is a way to light your off-grid camp every single night using nothing but the dirt beneath your boots and $5 worth of scrap metal. No solar panels to crack in the hail, no wind turbines with moving parts that snap, no gasoline generators roaring through the quiet night, and most importantly, no $500 lithium-ion power stations that inevitably degrade, die, and become toxic paperweights in exactly 3 years. Just 2 distinct pieces of metal, a handful of damp earth, and a reaction that starts the second they touch. Once connected, this system pulls a relentless, silent trickle of voltage directly from the ground. It runs through the night, through the rain, and through the winter. The dirt provides the electrolyte, the metals provide the reaction, and the physics provide the light. It costs less than the price of a single cup of coffee to build. It requires 0 engineering degrees, and in the 1800s, this exact technology powered entire telegraph networks across continents. Yet today, the portable power industry generates over $65 billion a year selling you chemical blocks programmed to fail. A method that uses ordinary dirt and hardware store nails cannot be patented, it cannot be branded, and it absolutely cannot generate recurring revenue. They did not bury this technology because it was obsolete. They buried it because it removes you from their grid entirely. Welcome to Archived Earth. If you are not subscribed yet, hit the button now, because today we are unearthing the suppressed science of the Earth Battery and how a billion-dollar energy cartel made you forget that true power literally grows in the mud. To understand the magnitude of what has been hidden from you, we have to open the oldest archive we possess. The year is 1936. A German archaeologist named Wilhelm König is excavating the ruins of Kuyut Rabu, an ancient Parthian settlement just outside modern-day Baghdad. Deep within the earth, he discovers something that shatters the established timeline of human technological evolution. He finds a 5-inch terracotta clay jar. Inside the jar is a hollow cylinder of copper, and suspended precisely inside that copper cylinder is a solid iron rod. At the top, the iron is isolated from the copper by a plug of ancient asphalt. König is not just an archaeologist. He understands basic chemistry. He realizes immediately that this is not a vase. This is not a religious artifact. It is a functional, engineered galvanic cell. When filled with an acidic electrolyte, like grape juice, lemon juice, or simple vinegar, this 2,000-year-old jar generates between 1.1 and 2 volts of continuous electricity. Let that sink in. Over 2,000 years before Alessandro Volta supposedly invented the battery in 1800, ancient Mesopotamians were utilizing electrochemical energy. They were electroplating gold onto silver jewelry using an energy source that modern history books claim did not exist. But the archive goes deeper. Fast forward to 1841. A Scottish inventor named Alexander Bain realizes that he does not need a jar and he does not need acid. He realizes that the Earth itself is the ultimate, infinite battery. Bain buries plates of zinc and copper in the damp soil of his garden, connects them with a wire, and generates enough continuous telluric current to power an electrical clock. Bain's clock did not run for a few days. It ran for decades. It never needed a battery replacement. It never needed to be plugged into a wall. It ran on the endless, slow galvanic decay of metal interacting with the natural moisture and minerals of the earth. By the 1850s, telegraph companies were using these massive earth batteries to send messages across miles of wire. The physics were perfected. The technology was proven.
It was cheap, it was permanent, and it belonged to anyone who had access to dirt and metal. So, what happened?
To understand why this technology vanished, you have to understand the brilliant, terrifyingly simple physics that makes it work. Because this is not magic, and it is not pseudoscience. It is peer-reviewed, undeniable electrochemistry. When you place a piece of copper and a piece of zinc into damp soil, you are creating what chemists call a galvanic cell. The zinc acts as the anode. It is highly reactive and desperately wants to give away its electrons. The copper acts as the cathode, perfectly structured to receive those electrons. But electrons cannot just jump through dry air. They need a highway. That is where the Earth comes in. Damp soil is packed with natural salts, minerals, and microbial life. It acts as the perfect, free, infinitely renewable electrolyte bridge. The moment you connect a wire between the copper and the zinc, a chemical reaction violently kicks off at the atomic level. The zinc begins to slowly oxidize, releasing a relentless river of electrons that travel up the wire, through your light bulb, and down into the copper. It produces a steady trickle of voltage, not enough to run a refrigerator, but when you link several of these dirt cells together in a series, just like chaining AA batteries, the voltage multiplies. You can easily reach the 3 or 4 volts needed to run an LED light array indefinitely. Now look at the world around you. The modern portable power industry, dominated by massive corporations selling lithium-ion and lithium iron phosphate power stations, is projected to reach a staggering $65 billion in the next few years. They market their products to campers, preppers, and off-grid enthusiasts as the ultimate tool for independence. But look at the reality. A lithium battery is a ticking clock. From the second it leaves the factory, its internal chemistry is degrading. Every time you charge it, it loses capacity. If you leave it in the freezing cold of a winter camp, it dies. If you leave it in the baking sun, it swells and poses a severe fire hazard. After 500 to 1,000 cycles, your $500 power station is essentially a heavy, toxic brick. This is the holy grail of modern capitalism: planned obsolescence. They do not want to sell you power. They want to rent it to you. They want you trapped in a cycle of upgrading your solar generators and battery banks every 3 to 5 years. Imagine presenting a competing product to a boardroom of battery executives. A power source that is completely unaffected by freezing temperatures. A power source that cannot catch fire. A power source where the primary chemical component, the electrolyte, is the literal ground you are standing on. If the battery runs dry, you do not plug it into the grid. You simply pour a cup of river water on it and the lights turn back on. You cannot monopolize dirt. You cannot put a subscription model on copper and zinc. So, the industry did what it always does. It marginalized the technology. Educational institutions relegated the Earth battery to a fun potato clock science experiment for middle school children, deliberately masking its potential for practical, off-grid scaling. They convinced you that if you want light in the wilderness, you have to buy it from a factory in China. But they underestimated the resilience of the off-grid community. Right now, homesteaders, survivalists, and independent engineers are opening the old archives. They are pulling this 19th century technology out of the mud, upgrading it with one piece of brilliant 21st century microelectronics, and lighting up their cabins for pennies. The archives are open, and it is time for you to take the power back. Here is exactly how you build a high-efficiency Earth battery array that will light your camp, outlast any commercial power bank, and cost you less than a fast food meal. Go to any local hardware store. You need 2 things: a spool of thick, bare copper wire and a box of heavily galvanized screws or nails. The galvanization is crucial. That is, the zinc coating that will act as your anode. Total cost? Roughly $5. For the container, you can use anything. A plastic ice cube tray is perfect for a compact camp light, or you can use sections of PVC pipe for a larger, permanent cabin installation. Fill each slot of the ice cube tray with damp soil from your campsite. The more mineral-rich and muddy, the better. Now, cut your copper wire into 3-inch strips. In the first slot of dirt, stick one galvanized screw and one piece of copper wire. Make sure they are close to each other, but absolutely do not let them touch inside the dirt. You have just created your first cell. It is producing about 0.8 volts of electricity. Now we scale it up. You must wire them in series to multiply the voltage. Take a wire and connect the copper from slot 1 to the zinc screw in slot 2. Then connect the copper in slot 2 to the zinc in slot 3. Repeat this daisy chain process across all 12 slots of the ice cube tray. When you reach the end, you will have one free zinc screw on one side and one free copper wire on the other. Put a multimeter on those two leads. You are now pulling a constant, silent 5 to 7 volts directly from the mud. But here is the final secret, the piece of modern magic that makes this ancient tech unstoppable. A standard LED light needs a specific voltage threshold to turn on. As the earth dries out over several weeks, the voltage might drop slightly, causing standard LEDs to flicker or die. To solve this, you add a component called a Joule Thief. You can buy these tiny circuit boards online for about $1, or salvage one from a cheap solar garden light. A Joule Thief is an electronic voltage booster. It is designed to aggressively siphon every last microamp of current from a dying battery and amplify it to keep an LED burning bright. Connect the leads of your dirt battery to the Joule Thief and connect the Joule Thief to your LED array. Instantly, the darkness is gone. You now possess a light source that will burn continuously for weeks, months, or even years. When the light finally starts to dim, you do not need a wall outlet. You just add a splash of water to the dirt to reactivate the electrolyte. When the zinc screw eventually corrodes away after a year of continuous use, you replace it for 4 cents. Think about the profound independence of what you have just built. In 1841, Alexander Bain powered the future with buried metal. In 1936, we discovered the ancients were doing it 2 millennia earlier. And today, while millions of people panic when their $500 portable batteries run out of juice, you are pulling endless energy out of the earth itself. The knowledge has always been there, waiting for those willing to get their hands dirty. If this video opened your eyes, hit the subscribe button and share it with someone who refuses to be dependent on the grid. We are just scratching the surface of what the archives hold. Welcome to Archived Earth. Keep digging, and I will see you in the next video.